It's the song, "We Shall Behold Him." It's about that moment that Paul talks about, where we see Him face to face, and we receive our new bodies. We meet Him in the air. Paul calls it the blessed hope of the body Messiah, the blessed hope of the church. And, you know, there's some debate as to when that will happen, and you know what, I just know it's going to happen. And I know that the time will come when He'll wipe away all of our tears. And we, you know, the first 120 years are the hardest. Then forever, it's going to be wonderful for the people of God. And we need to remember that and to not be discouraged as we see these dark times approaching. But I'd like to play that for you right now. This is the song that Dottie Rambo wrote many years ago. "The sky shall unfold, preparing His entrance, and we shall behold Him, our Savior and our Lord." Jesus. Come, Lord Jesus. Even so, the Bible ends. Come, Lord, Yeshua our Messiah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Because what I want to share with you is very scary if we didn't have this hope. But the Apostle Paul said, when you hear the message of the end times, it should not put you in fear or put you in a place of confusion. He says, comfort one another and edify one another, those that are children of light. For you're not of darkness, or of those that are lost, or those that this day will come as a thief. But you're sons and daughters of the day, of the light. This day should not overtake you like a thief. Because we're going to look at tonight, we're going to look at some visions and that the Lord has given me. Actually, the very first one was here in Dallas in 1985. It was a revival meeting that I had attended in May of 1985 at a sort of a faith type of thing. But the vision that he gave me, I realize now, is foundational to the message that he has had me to proclaim. And that is, get ready. Yeshua's coming soon. And God had to do a lot of miracles for a lot of generations so I could stand here and say that to you. Do you realize? My fathers before me, you see. God had to preserve them. This is so important. But anyway, we're going to get into a lot tonight, and I'm going to plunge in, and this is Visions for the Midnight Hour. How many of you know we're in the midnight hour right now? But thank God. Greater is He that's in you than he that's in the world. Keep this in mind as we go into this. We're going to start looking at what's happening, what is happening, what has happened, what is about to happen in the world. There's two different destinies. And I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be lost in this hour. Would you? I thank God. I'm found. I once was lost, but now I'm found. So we're going to get into this now, and I want to talk to you about this first vision that God gave me. It had four parts to it, and this is the first part, and I call it the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And I was out in space, and I saw the beautiful blue planet. It was so awesome. It's so glorious. Our planet, for the glory of God, covers the earth as the waters cover the sea. It's so beautiful. And I was just in awe. And then I heard the Lord say, watch. And He was standing, somehow we were suspended looking at the earth. And He said, watch. And as I watched, I began to see these small hexagon neon lights begin to form. First over Europe, then it came and it came to the west coast of America, then it went through America, and then quickly it covered the earth, and they looked like neon lights. And they were in hexagon shapes, about 100 miles wide or so, approximately. And when this thing was completed, it looked like a geodesic dome. Have you ever seen the globe at the Epcot Center? It looked like that, except it was clear, and you could see the earth under it. And I was kind of troubled when I saw it. And you know, in 1985, I was a graduate student in music in Houston at that time. Then I was at Juilliard shortly after, but I had come down to work with my teacher, and the internet was in its infancy at that time. I had no way of understanding this, but the Lord said to me, there's coming an electronic web that will cover the earth, and this web will unite everyone globally, and for a while it'll seem like a wonderful thing, a boon. it will bring tremendous prosperity. It will bring unity. It will be really, it will seem like such a good thing. And then he said, but watch. So I watched, and I began to see like a brackish kind of green, like a pond color, you know, smoke, and it began to come up and fill each of these little hexagons. And it started in the same order. It started in Central Europe, and then it quickly spread, and then it immediately came to America, and same order, and then suddenly the whole earth was it looked like the bottom of a pond, and I couldn't see the earth anymore. It was just this brackish color. And then I heard the Lord say again, watch. So as I watched, then I saw those same in the same order. Suddenly they just went black, 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 until finally the whole planet was in darkness. But it wasn't just darkness. It was like, it was, you know, it says deep darkness. I mean, it was so black, the space looked bright. It was a spiritual darkness. And it just, I had this sick feeling in my stomach. And then I heard the screams of millions of lost souls. I heard them screaming and crying out to God, and I knew that somehow it was too late. Something had happened. Something would happen. I didn't know what it was exactly, but I was very troubled. And then I heard the Lord say to me, the Lord said, this is the fullness of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This is what Adam chose in the Garden of Eden instead of union with me. And the vision ended right after that, but I just felt such an urgency. We must work while it is still day, for the darkness come. The time will come when it's no longer, Yeshua said, it's no longer possible to work. I believe right now we are seeing these opaque, we're beginning to see these hexagons go opaque. In other words, they're cut off from God. This surveillance, this web is truly a web, and it's now influencing every aspect of our lives. And it is still a good thing. Why? Because God's grace is still, we're here, and God's grace is with us. Now, in the book of Daniel, the last chapter, it says that a primary sign of the end times is that knowledge would increase exponentially. And the one thing that characterizes this generation, among many others, is that knowledge, the knowledge of man, the accumulated knowledge of man, is now instantly accessible, and it's doubling, it's increasing exponentially. That's that tree with all of its branches that has stretched itself out all the way from, all the way from the Garden of Eden, when Adam chose knowledge instead of union in the tree of life. So that was the first part of this vision. And then the Lord showed me in a panoramic way, and he just spoke to me, really, but it kind of downloaded in my heart, and I saw this. And what's so ironic about this is, at the time, I was a real faith word person, I came into my Jewish heritage backwards. I was secular, and I didn't know anything about God. I got saved, and I was heavily influenced by some of the great faith teaching that came, and particularly the early 80s. And so that was my orientation. And so, in this particular meeting was very positive. Everything was positive. And so this really, I thought, what, did I eat the wrong pizza? What's going on? I was staying at a Days Inn motel, and this happened while I was, over a period of about 3 days. It was a prophetic experience, and it marked my life in such a way that it put a fire in me. Paul said to Agrippa in Acts chapter 26. I was not disobedient to the heavenly vision. And he was referring to his testimony, how God apprehended him on the way to on the way to Damascus, right? So anyway, the next thing I saw was a vision of I almost have to go back and experience it again, because as soon as it's like I'm there. I felt like I was on a low-flying fighter jet, or I was actually on a missile or something, and I was just shooting. I was about several hundred feet from the ground, and God gave me a panoramic sweep of the United States of America. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. It was, sea to shining sea. It was majestic. It was God's grace all over. I mean, such beauty. I started on the East Coast, and it's like the Lord just showed me. I went to the West Coast. I went up into Alaska, Hawaii, everything. And it was like in about a minute's time, I felt like I had seen the glory of God over the United States of America. It was so beautiful. But then I heard the Lord say again, watch, look, behold is the Old English, but look. And there I was, and then I was just kind of over. It was like I was looking over America, and I could see it. And I wasn't moving as fast. And I saw what looked like fires just hit different cities, just boom, like a fire, like a flare, which went, it began to, and first it was just in a few places, but rapidly it began to, I saw lines of, it was very much like that early 80s, and of course at that time, it was like that missile arcade game, Missile Command, I think it was called. It was a Atari game many, many years ago, but it was this tremendous, I knew these were missiles, and they were hitting and exploding all over the United States, and even into Canada. It was North America. And then there were bigger and bigger explosions, and then I just saw giant mushroom clouds, and I knew then that was a nuclear, that was what I was seeing, was nuclear explosions. And then for some time, all I saw was just smoke, And then I looked after the smoke cleared, and the entire USA was burnt and charred. It was in ruins from one end to the other. There was total devastation. I mean, twisted metal. It looked worse than Planet of the Apes. I mean, it looked awful. I mean, it was just, there was nothing there. It was just gone. And like I said, I thought I ate the wrong kind of pizza or something. Something's wrong with me. After all, I should believe Hagen 23:11, all this, prosperity and all this. And here I am having these visions of this. And then the Lord said this to me: this is the end of all nations that forsake me for the idols of Babylon. You see, Babylon in the Bible, and I studied this after because I didn't understand it fully. It took me quite a few years before I understood. But Babylon is symbolic, or really it is the spirit that is the man, shaking his fist at God. I did it my way, like that man sang. And then the Lord showed me, and then he told me, he said, there are 6 Babylons in the Bible, and you have to discern when you're reading the scriptures which Babylon, sometimes it's a combination, but which of these Babylons he's talking about, because he refers to all of them. There are 3, the first 3 are literal, historic Babylon. There's the Tower of Babel in the Bible, where they built a tower that reached to heaven. Some believe it was an astrology type of thing to worship the heavens. Very likely it was. And that was the very first organized rebellion, governmental, against God. Let us build in the plain of Shinar with brick and mortar, you know. And then the scriptures also talk about another Babylon, which is the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar. That was the actual kingdom that he ruled over, which is modern-day Iraq and Persia or Iran and a number of other neighboring, in the Middle East, basically. That same area that is so volatile now. The third Babylon is the geographic region where his kingdom was. And all of these Babylons, the scriptures say, will be destroyed by fire. Everybody say, by fire. By fire. They will be destroyed by fire. So Babel was destroyed, Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom was destroyed, but we haven't seen yet the prophecies fulfilled, even that it says it will be uninhabitable, and that is soon to come, I believe. We're going to see some devastating wars come in the Middle East, and I mean, it's only God's grace has withheld it as the first war for as long as he has, because it says the farmer waits with long patience for the precious fruit of the earth. He's reaching out with the gospel. Don't ever forget, millions are being saved right now. God is sweeping through. There is a last call. And our prayers as the bride hold back the darkness. Because, one more day to reach the perishing, you see. So those are the three literal historic Babylons. And then there's three prophetic end-time Babylons. And those three are global. They are worldwide. The first is talks about a global economic system that will ensnare man. We are now well into that system. It really, about 100 years ago, a lot of the underpinnings of the liberty of America economically were already being robbed, and some even from the foundation of America, the demonic system. The enemy has tried to put this in place, but again, if we learn how to pray, if my people called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, I will heal the land. So some of this has been held back, but now time is running out, basically. So this Babylon, this economic Babylon, is rising up before us. We see it. We see it in the, and again, it's all connected with that web, that electronic web, the tree of knowledge that has filled the earth, but it'll be like a trap. Yeshua said that this day will come as a trap or a thief in the night, or something that where everyone is saying peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should take you this way. We should know. We can see. It's now, Satan isn't hiding this anymore. It's very clear. And also in prophecy, I have to say, after 27 years of study and just walking with the Lord, I do not see America in end-time prophecy in a prominent way. I know that people try to apply different passages, and you know, it would be nice if it was true, but I personally don't believe that. I believe that America somehow disappears from being a world leader. The power shifts to Europe, but I have to stick with this. So the fifth Babylon is called Mystery Babylon in Revelation chapter 17. It's a global religious system of deception and idolatry. It is, it's the Kool-Aid that the whole world drinks. Or more accurately, it's the wine that the nations are drunk on. There's a wine of Babylon. The wine of Babylon is the wine of idolatry. One of the prophets says the nations will be drunk and staggering around. In other words, not in their right mind. And God says, I will send them, Paul wrote, strong delusion that they would believe the lie. the lie. What is the lie? The lie was sown in the Garden of Eden. You shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. That's the lie. Everything comes seed, time, harvest. There's the righteous seed, and then there's the wheat, there's the tares. It's all through the Scriptures. All right. So this is a religious system that, we are the world, we are one, and there's many paths to God, and you like vanilla, I like chocolate, and let's just all live together in harmony. That is the religion. That is the religion of the public sector, of the Western world. And it also is headed up in certain systems that mix. It's also a mixture. That's another meaning of Babylon. It's mixing. Satan's always trying to mix the truth with lies. He's always trying to mix the seed. He's always trying to do that. And so this is that spiritual system called Mystery Babylon. And the picture of it is of a woman drunk on the martyrs, and it's the harlot, the whore. Because why? Because idolatry and whoredom are directly connected. In fact, whenever you see false doctrine, whenever you see wrong, error, particularly if it's mixed with the Bible, it's Christian so-called, or even in the Jewish realm, there's some error, the different things. What that mixture is a result of Satan trying to mingle the seed and deceive man. But it will become so bad in the last days. Yeshua said, beware that no one deceive you. Luke 21, many will come in my name saying, I am Christ, or I am Messiah. I asked God, what does that mean? And he said to me, it means not, there have been about 40 Jews that stood up and said, I'm God, false Messiah. They're in history, other than Yeshua. That literally was fulfilled. But it means more than that. It means they stand up in the last days and they say, I'm anointed with the true message of the gospel. And so it's false. It's a false gospel. It's a counterfeit. Now, what is a counterfeit? A counterfeit, think of a counterfeit $100 bill for a moment. I mean, a good one. It's so hard to tell. They got to look in the light. They got to feel it. They got to smell it. They got to put a marker on it. And we're not sure. It's so close. Yeshua said it would get so, the delusion, the deception would get so strong that if God didn't shorten the days, even the elect wouldn't be saved. So this is serious. It's serious deception. Now let me tell you about deception. Nobody that's deceived thinks they're deceived. They know they're right and everybody else is wrong. Isn't that so? I mean, you just talk to anybody and they're right and everybody else is wrong. Well, it's the only way, the only antidote for deception. I believe the primary antidote is we have the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth. Pray in the Spirit. Pray in the languages of tongues, Jude said. It's the only antidote for deception. Read it. Build yourself up in your... So that is, you know what? I'm a tongue talker. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm a Jewish tongue talker. New creation, I tell people I believe the whole Bible, every part of it. I mean, I believe the fly leaf. I believe but you see, God is the Holy Spirit is the Spirit of truth. And see, it says when the nations refuse the truth, God will send them strong delusion. Now, he doesn't directly send it, but he allows it. Strong delusion is the lie, and it'll go into the realm of mind control, and it's very, honey, I talk to my wife all the time, I say, dearly beloved. There, I got myself out of that one. Yeah. Keep yourselves from idols, John said. You have to spend time with God. We have so much to cover. I'm going to do my best. So the sixth Babylon is this. Now this is really interesting, and I would never know this without God, revealing it. There is, and also study. I confirmed all this by study. I urge you to study and see this. The sixth Babylon is the end time nations and geographic regions, including the islands of the sea, where the world's elite have hoarded their riches. It's places like, beautiful places. Yeah, many, many beautiful places that are havens of wealth. And now, for the first time, we hear of, in our generation, last 40 years, people buy islands. They just buy them. And if you check out the islands of the sea, it's a part of this Babylon. God judges the islands of the sea, even. So it's these geographic regions that when they surrender to this system, then God calls them Babylon. Now, I believe America, as long as we are salt and light in it, God says, I'll spare the righteous and the wicked. I know there's different, I will spare the wicked, like Abraham, if he prays. But the time comes when God must judge the nations. The time has run out. This is right now the end of the age of grace and the beginning of the Messianic kingdom to come. That's why Messianic Judaism has risen up in the last 40 years. Came right at the same time as the charismatic outpouring, and also the city of Jerusalem, 1967. When that happened, when it came back into the hands of Jewish control again, when God gave it back, like he said, it signaled the end of the times of the Gentiles. What does that mean? That means God is handing the baton back to his covenant people, Israel. So all these Jewish people, including yours truly, were supernaturally visited and were saved. A lot of them were hippies. A lot of them were, whoa, Jesus, man. But they had names like Goldstein and, and you understand what I'm saying. So God it was like a first fruits harvest. And then we see a heralding of the kingdom to come. That's why I believe a portion of the body of Messiah is called to hold that banner up and saying, God is restoring. Will you at this time restore the nation of Israel? The disciples asked Yeshua the last question before he ascended. That's because the time will come. Will you at this time? Well, God will restore, spiritually and physically, the Jewish people. We should be long gone. Have you met any Hittites recently? They're all gone. The Romans are gone. Every nation that has tried to destroy us is gone. Even the Nazis are gone. We're still here. That shows you God must have some purpose in that. Yeah. So, and even you'll see the body, the bride, or the true church, is what I would say, the overcoming church, is now marrying Israel in a way that has never happened before in all of our church age, if you will. So God is moving. We see the separation of the righteous and the wicked, don't we? So this indictment against the end-time wealthy of the nations is found in James chapter 5. I don't have time to go there, but you can look at it. It's like, the Holy Spirit is like Perry Mason, and he's the prosecuting attorney. And he's saying, woe to you, for your riches are corrupt and moth-eaten, and they will burn your flesh as fire. You have heaped up treasure for the last days. You have heaped up treasure in the last days. But both, I think 4 is a little bit more accurate. And you see that God, those that have extorted wealth because of debt and unjust interest and things like that, payday's coming. Justice will be done. You see, he is the Holy One of Israel. All right. You're looking at me so serious. I know you're listening. But finally, there is something that the Lord showed me that actually shocked me. I was in that Days Inn motel, and I was reading Revelation 18, and I saw something. I saw an end-time city was called Babylon. In fact, it was called Babylon the Great. And there's 5 points about this city, Babylon the Great. It's very clear it is a city. It is the center of world trade. Every fine and good thing is bought and sold there. It is the center of world finance. It is the center of arts and music. It is a port city, and it contains a large population of Jewish people, because it says, "Come out of her, my people." So the Lord said, "What city qualifies for that?" And I said, well, I could only think of one, and that was New York City. Now, however, I won't preach that as you know, doctrine or infallible, but I see it very unlikely that a city will suddenly rise up in Iraq or somewhere that has all those characteristics. So that's an interesting thing to Sklar, you know, pause and think about that. So unless some other city suddenly rises up to take its place, that will most likely be the city, because right now it's the center of all those things that fits all of those qualifications. Okay, that took me longer than I planned on, I know. I want to talk to you about the next part of this vision. I had a vision, a panoramic, again, all of these were panoramic. It was a sweep through history. And it started with Elijah. And the Lord said, I want to show you what the mantle of Elijah is. So I said, yes, sir, you know, okay. So I saw the ministry of Elijah and his miracles kind of in a panoramic sweep. This whole vision was kind of like that. And then I saw Elisha take it, receive it, and double miracles. And then I went forward in history, and the Lord showed me that this mantle actually stayed. Or the supernatural ministry mantles, there are many of them, but it's like the Lord called it Elijah, the ministry of Elijah. And in the Jewish people, in the history, Elijah represents the height of the miraculous and the prophetic, because he was. And then I saw some great rabbis and Jewish leaders in biblical history, like Ezra, like many of the prophets. I saw them that followed. Then the Lord showed me John the Baptist. I saw one of the Maccabees, you know, in the time of, this thing just kept passing on. And then I saw the miracle mantle given to Yeshua when he came, given to Jesus when he was baptized by John. I saw then that same multiplied mantle on a number of the church fathers in the early church, the apostles, you know, different people. Saints and holy men of the first 100,000 years of the church, there was many miracles. In fact, they tried to show that in the mosaics and the paintings by putting a halo around their head, you know. It was the power of God, the supernatural. I mean, you know, people like even, you know, St. Patrick or, you know, or Francis of Assisi, or these were great men, some of them, and they did great things for God. And then I saw the restoration of what we call the Protestant, but became the Protestant Reformation. I saw it start again, and it looked again like fires. It looked fires that were lit first in Italy, then Spain, then France, then England, and then Eastern Europe. And some of these great, you can see the pictures of some of these great men that were reformers and revivalists. There was Luther in Germany. I saw the Reformation light up that whole country and spread through Europe, just brightly lit. Many were saved. And then it was carried by the Moravians and others to many nations. And then I saw America lit with revival fire. I saw the First Awakening with Jonathan Edwards, and I've read about it in history. And then the Second Awakening, well, actually, George Whitefield was part of the first, I think, but there were a number of, you know, John Wesley was a great man, that carried a tremendous mantle. I saw America lit and burning brightly in revival fires through all the 1800s. It really was. We were the city on the hill. Tremendous revival, even through the Civil War. And though we weren't perfect, we had the gospel and we had the fire of God. We had holiness, and the fear of the Lord was preached from the pulpits. Then the greatest outpouring of them all, the Pentecostal outpouring. This is, it's not written right. This is the latter rain of 100 years, from approximately 1900 to 2000, and it spread to the entire world. And this brought in the end time harvest. I saw the end time mantle of Elijah coming in the late 1800s upon John Alexander Dowie. I did not know who he was. It was an old man in a ship with a beard. And I saw this huge mantle come on him, and it was like huge. It was the same like Elijah. But then he got deceived. He said, "I'm Elijah to come." And he missed it. He walked in the spirit of Elijah, but he wasn't Elijah. But that mantle was on him because tremendous miracles. I mean, tremendous miracles. He was a great, great general. And then a man named William Branham receives this mantle. Now, I didn't know who he was. I saw a man in a little cabin crying and in utter poverty and despair. And I saw that same mantle. It took 2 angels to bring it and put it on him. And then I saw him go out in his ministry and lit fires all over. He was a great man, but then he too fell to the same deception. I am Elijah to come. And then he got deceived. A snake wrapped around him. He began teaching false things, and he got off, and God had to lift that mantle off of him. And then God said, "I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and terrible day of the Lord." Then I saw something. I saw the catching away of the saints. Now I know that many of you have perhaps a different theology than I do, but every single vision and all my study and everything that God has led me into tells me, or has revealed to me, I believe in a pre-tribulation rapture. Forgive me. Please don't stone me. But you know what? I do believe that. And I do because of revelation and studying different things. But I do know one thing. As long as we're down here, God will supernaturally protect and provide for us. Amen? So I saw the catching away. And I saw that all those mantles just go up into heaven. But then I saw Elijah himself come. I know this sounds like I'm making it up, but I saw these things. I saw Elijah coming back and preaching during this tribulation time. But it was that same mantle, that Elijah, and it was a repentance, and it was a law message. It was fire and brimstone, basically, Fire, but it was a different kind of fire. It wasn't revival. It was revival, but it was also judgment. It was releasing judgment. He dies, comes back to life, and is raptured to heaven during the tribulation. By the way, that's the only open rapture in the book of Revelation. There's the two witnesses. There's probably will be Moses. It might be Enoch. We don't know. But there will be 2 men that will be preaching. And then 144,000 Jewish Elijahs, whether that's before or after, I don't know. I saw it in this order. Jewish Elijahs cover the earth and win millions to the Lord. They all carry a similar mantle also. So that was the vision of the mantle of Elijah. I have to go quicker now. Then the last part of this was this vision, the vision of the 10 lamps. Not the last part of what I'm sharing with you, but I saw the parable of the 10 virgins. But I saw them as 10 ancient oil lamps lit, and they were side by side in front of me. The 5 lamps on the left began to flicker and went out. The 5 lamps on the right burned brighter and brighter. They were being fed by oil from there was hidden oil, and the darker it got, the brighter they were just bright, so bright. I heard the words, "Come up here and escape the wrath to come, for you are found worthy. Behold, the bridegroom cometh." Then the lamps all disappeared. Now, those 4 parts of that vision were the foundation of what God called me to share. So the Lord then said to me, "Half of those that say they know me in the time of the end are liars. They have never been lit with the fire from heaven. They are burning with the strange fires of mystery Babylon. They only pretend to know me. Their lamps shall be put out in outer darkness, and there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. But those who are mine shall shine forever and burn with the brightness of my glory as the stars. For they are lit from my throne and fed with my oil and shall never go out." "These are my precious ones, my glorious bride, who shall always be true and faithful to me. It is for her that I died and rose again. It is for her that I am returning in the midnight hour. Tell her that I have not forgotten her. She is my beloved, and I am hers. She is mine. I love her with an everlasting love. I shall surely catch her up to my throne, where she will rule and reign with me in glory forever and ever at my right hand. Amen." Now, let me just say this about the rapture. They may all be right. There may be waves of revival and catching away. Or I may have missed it. But I know that Yeshua says one thing: be ready. Okay? I don't claim infallibility. I'm just giving you what I saw and heard. Okay? But the important thing is Yeshua warned over and over that many will not be ready. So I don't believe that God, the Holy Spirit leaves the earth. I don't believe that the witness of God leaves the earth. I do believe that we are not appointed to wrath, whatever that means. Okay? So I just wanted to share that so you don't take out your prophet rocks and stone me. All right. Now, this year I had another vision, a vision of the Victorian mansion. And I saw this beautiful Victorian mansion, similar to that, not exactly. My wife found that picture today for me. It was pristine, it was majestic, it was red, white, and blue. The house was white, the shutters were red, the trim and the porch was blue, and there was a beautiful flag, American flag, hanging on a pole on the left side of the entrance there. And it was just a perfect day. It was it was like California weather where it was just perfect. It was a beautiful day. And I saw it was surrounded as an expansive lawn. It was perfectly manicured. And it had huge old live oak trees. And they were at least 200 years old. They were old trees. You could tell they had been there a long time. How many of you know America's been here about a little over 200 years? Yeah. So there was a flag flying out front. And then I zoomed in. Suddenly I zoomed in like I went under the house. It was like, you've seen a movie where I zoomed in and the Lord said, "Watch, all is not as it seems." And as I went in, it's like I went into the inside of the wood. I could see it. And it was, and it looked like a horror movie. What I saw was on the inside of this house, it was filled with millions and millions of termite-looking creatures. But they looked demonic. They were chewing. It was like armies of them. They looked like demons, and they were eating this house out from the inside. The Lord had said to me when I was standing there, "This is the United States of America." I said, "It looks perfect." But then when I looked on the inside, I saw it was being devoured. And then the house suddenly cracks right down the middle. It goes like that. And it falls in on itself. And it was still standing, but it shuddered and it cracked all the way from the front to the back. And then the house sagged and leaned inward, but it remained standing. And the Lord said, this is the first collapse. Then there was a second collapse. Cracks started appearing on the exterior walls. Only about 5 minutes later, very short amount of time, these demonic-looking termites started pouring out of these cracks by the thousands and millions. I mean, it was so many. It was like the worst horror movie. It was horrible. I wanted to throw up, you know. And then it seemed like almost no time the house collapses on itself. The walls fell, the roof sank. I mean, the roof crashed, really. And the walls held out for some time, though no longer straight. They were at a 45-degree angle. And then these termite creatures completely covered the exterior. You couldn't even see it. And then there was a final collapse. The whole house just imploded on itself in a heap of ruins. It looked then like a massive anthill. You couldn't even see it anymore. The Lord said to me, America is being eaten from within. Its days are numbered. There are 3 parts of its financial collapse. The first crack in the foundation happened in September of 2008. The collapse of the walls is the second drop in the dollar soon to come. This vision is about the economic collapse of America. The dollar will lose 30% more of its value. Then the whole financial system will crumble and all of America's wealth will be devoured. But during this terrible time, I will visit America again. A third great awakening will come, but the days of America's glory and beauty will never again be seen as they were. My judgment shall come swiftly upon all those that have turned their backs to me. So that was the vision that I had seen earlier this year. Now, I believe that if there is a pre-tribulation catching away, that will in itself will cause such devastation that I believe that America is being preserved because of the presence of light here. This is the vision of the wedding supper. I received this in 2006. It was a quick vision, but it was very powerful. I was caught up to heaven, and I saw angels preparing an outdoor banquet dinner. And everything was white, 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 pure and perfect and pristine, like the most perfect wedding you've ever seen. There were perfect table settings. There was a long, large banquet. There were long, large banquet tables being prepared under a large tent pavilion. And I saw the angels just busy, 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 going to and fro. And there was such joy. They were all anticipating the arrival of the saints of God. And then I got to look closely at the settings of the table, and they were beautiful gold and just these plates were just awesome with mother of pearl. It looked just so beautiful. And there were names of the saints on gold nameplates at each setting. Some had jewels around their names. Some were obviously of a higher station. They were more honored than others. But everyone was honored to be there, you know. Some tables were set closer to the center table, which had Yeshua's throne chair in the center. There were biblical people sitting beside him. The nameplates were there. I got to see some of that. Then the Lord said to me, "Tell my bride that I am coming soon. Everything is being prepared. In a little while, all sorrow, pain, sickness, poverty, and every teardrop will be wiped away. There is only a little longer that you must labor. You must work now while it is still time, for the darkness is soon coming upon the earth when all will be in tribulation. Stay ready and remain alert and watching and praying. I will surely come for you just as I promised in my word." You know, I think the Bible is, that God on purpose did not make it too clear. It's cryptic. We don't know for sure. Everyone has very good, I used to think I knew. I don't think so anymore. I know very little. But I do know that light wins over darkness. And we have to keep hold of that hope. You know? Amen? Amen. All right. Well, we have a little bit more time. than from this first section here. So I'm going to give you another vision. This happened in 2009. I was in Hong Kong, and I was grumpy. I didn't want to have a vision. I was trying to go to the McDonald's, and this thing happened for 2 hours, but nevertheless, I had to admit it really was I fought this one, but it still came, and it was very strong, and it for days it shook me. Actually, this shook me. This was, I call it the vision of the closing of the gates of grace. Again, I saw the earth in space, like I spoke to you. And above it, I saw two massive golden gates that were open like this. Just massive gates. They were as big as they looked bigger than the earth. And two huge angels on each side, one on each side, I should say, and they had these swords, and then they were spinning around, and they were on fire. And I thought of the angels in the Garden of Eden. They were guarding this gate, obviously. But there was this amazing spinning sword, like it was just, they were glowing like the sun. I mean, everything was just bright, bright, bright. And what I saw was, I saw a river of light pouring down onto the earth from these gates, and heaven was above it. And then I looked up above this, and I saw Yeshua. I saw Jesus on a throne. But he didn't have a smile on his face. It almost looked like one of those Middle Ages type of, he was very stoic, and he looked fierce. I mean, and he had, you know how it says many crowns? I saw many crowns on his head over him, and they were suspended, and they just went up, many crowns. He would crown him with many crowns. And it was obvious this is the King of all kings. And I shook when I saw him. I mean, this was not, Jesus tiptoeing through the tulips and, no, this was the great King of glory. Whew. And he had what looked like an iron scepter or pole in his right hand. It wasn't fancy. It looked like a weapon. It looked like, just like it says in Psalm 2, he'll smash with a rod of iron. It was iron. It was metal. It was like this dark metal. And in the other hand, he had an old-fashioned looking harvest sickle. Those things how they used to do it by hand, And he had that in his left hand. Suddenly, I heard his voice. It sounded like a roaring ocean of water and wind as he spoke. It was the most terrifying thing. I understand now. I understand why at Mount Sinai they said, please, please, don't let him speak to us anymore. It's like a trumpet blast, loud and loud. But no, his voice is like the sound of many waters. By the way, I can tell if somebody's really been to heaven. You don't go into the throne room, into God's presence. You don't go into the throne room, hey, God, how are you? I am a friend of God. I am a friend of God. No, the first thing that will happen is you fall flat on your face. He is the King of glory. He is high and lifted up. Your knees will fellowship one with another. They'll knock. I'm telling you, you will fall on your face because he is so glorious. I have never heard the sound of a voice like that before. It shook me. It branded on my inside. He said, the time has come to close the gates of grace upon the earth. The nations have rejected me and my Father long enough. Lift the coverings of protection off of those nations that have chosen Babylon over my kingdom. I will no longer protect them from reaping what they have sown. And then I saw the angels begin to shut the doors, but they closed very slowly. They closed so slowly. And even years passed as the doors closed. Seasons went by. I saw that river of light pouring upon the earth. And as I looked closer, I saw that angels were flying or ascending and descending back and forth. They brought prayers from the earth to heaven. Then they descended with the answers back to the earth. And I realized that is the operation of grace. Right before the gates closed, I heard the Lord say, Come up here, my bride, and escape the wrath that is about to be poured out upon the earth. A deafening loud blast of trumpets came then. It was so loud, and it came louder, 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 and louder. And the two angels blew together these long silver trumpets. And before these gates closed completely, multitudes, millions of souls ascended out of the earth very fast in a flash of light. Yeshua was suspended in the outer atmosphere, and these souls met him in the air, then rapidly went up through the closing doors in a river of light and glory. The earth was left in darkness, and I saw that electronic web again and heard the screams of those lost in the darkness. The Lord spoke again. Warn them, time is very short. You must preach the gospel and work while it is still daylight. The night comes very soon, and no man can then harvest in the time of grace ever again. The doors of grace are beginning to close. Repent, 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 O earth, before the river of light stops flowing. Then you will face me, not as merciful Savior, but as the judge of all the earth. Who will hear and heed the final call of the silver trumpet's clarion of grace, grace? Take heed to the warning, O earth. Receive the word of the Lord. Amen. The Lord continued to say, my spirit will not strive with sinful man forever. Come to me now while there is still a little time left. I am coming soon for my overcoming bride. Keep your lamps burning. Watch and pray. I am at the doors of grace. They are closing quickly. Come into my ark of safety. Come into the bridal chamber, and the doors will be shut. I am coming for you, my beloved. So this is the conclusion of what the Lord said to me at the end of that vision of the closing of the gates of grace.